think we're going to see a massive pull away from bariatric surgery because I think, the weight loss industry per se is now getting better tools that are less invasive and less long-term side effects. There are so many other options now, and it's increasing. Like, they're talking about the third generation of GLP-1 agonists are going to be even better again. So we just got to keep in the space and learn and use our clients for feedback and assist them, and definitely not be closed-minded into using other tools as well as MB, because, at the end of the day, all we want is that fantastic outcome for that person, and we're just one of the ways that they get there.
With MB, with what we do, if we can set up that foundation of having a really good nutritious breakfast that contains the proteins, the fats, the good carbohydrates, everything we need, it helps to reduce some of that food noise. And then you bring in the medications and you've reduced it even more. So the success to then get from breakfast to lunch to have a nourishing lunch helps. And then you've got the same in the afternoon. And so it always comes back to that foundation of good food. But good food with MB, not only do you get the good food, you know what food you need in the quantities you need and where you need it.
Hello and welcome to the Metabolic Balance Stories Podcast. This is where we share real insights and information into the Metabolic Balance Program. I'm Cherry Wills, and today we are having an expert panel on the program. And we are going to be talking about the spectrum of client outcomes and also the potential of metabolic balance for fully supporting pharmaceutical interventions for many health conditions. We'd like to start maybe with you, Emily. Emily Federicas, you're a nutritionist and nurse practitioner in Ipswich in Queensland. Hello, Emily. Can you just share from your insights how you see so many of the client outcomes? What are the client outcomes that you've seen?
I've worked in mainstream medicine as well as now in that complementary alternative supportive medicine area. I was a registered nurse, but I jumped ship out of frustration. And so I guess what I've really noticed is definitely that you need that holistic support. That I think some of us try to play down the importance of some of these pharmaceutical medications, especially now that these GLP-1 antagonists are everywhere, but they work amazingly in the right situation. However, you do have to really nourish your body when you're on these medications, but it goes for a lot of other things as well, right? So blood pressure medications, statin medications, all of those things, there is definitely a place for them, and it's not about one or the other. It's about finding the right mix and the right balance of all those lifestyle things, food things, as well as medication when needed. So,
yeah, and I think that's kind of key, that we always need to have the nutrients in the body for any kind of healing to happen. Karen, what would you say in this context?
Yeah, I think like the same thing. Like a lot of my clients come to me and they're on a lot of these medications, and as Emily said, these medications work fantastically. There's a place for them. It's not our position to stop people using them. Some of these medications are necessary. I had one client I remember, and he came to me with absolutely chronic psoriatic arthritis, and had been on so many medications and was still on the medications, but had not got the foundations right. So it was like his body was fighting against the medications to do what they were doing. So he was getting little bits of relief. But once we worked on that foundation, and once we got his nutrition right, and once we reduced the inflammation, the change that I saw in him was incredible. Now, he stayed on those medications. It wasn't a case of coming on them, coming off them. But the relief that he had got, and the absolute symptom relief. I remember him saying to me that he was probably, when he started, 99% in pain. And then when we'd gone through the process, he was sitting at around a 10%, which is just phenomenal, just from getting that foundation there.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, isn't it? That the inflammation from your food can really drop everything, the inflammation from your food actually can raise everything up and stop much of the healing from happening.
Yeah, or amplify the pain. Yeah.
Amplify the pain in an incredible way. Yeah. Heather, I know that you have a high level of expertise on using the GLP-1 agonist injectables alongside MB. Can you share some of your insights?
The injectables are a bridge. So it's a really great way to really solidify the new eating habits that MB is introducing. Because if they've been on, like sometimes we've all been doing this for years. So somebody may have come along 5 years ago, done MB, got fabulous results, 20, 30, 40 kilo release, really, really good. Then, like you say, their old habits come back in and the family functions accelerate and the weddings and the trips to Europe and all those things that happen in life, and they slowly start to creep back. And then sometimes there's that like reluctance to go again, although the ones that go again get exactly the same fantastic results as they did the first time. And I've seen that multiple times. They come back in, we do a reset, they smash it out of the park again. But if that's not happening because there's so much food noise, and they're sort of like, it's not a PTSD thing, but it's like, oh no, this was hard and I don't want to do it. Using it beside the injectables can just shut all the food noise off, and then they really focus on food prepping, making the right choices, expanding the foods that they're eating out of their list, and they two can work beautifully together. And then most people don't want to stay on injectables long term, even though that is the trend in the US, but because of the expense, the goal is always to wean off them. And once they're getting the results and they're coming in and they're having their regular support, then that is much, much easier than them out there on their own trying to wean off alone. They're weaning off with the support of foods that are right for them, with a practitioner that understands them, with, cheering. And often it's like, for me, I check body mass and muscle mass and seeing that, you're not losing muscle, you're losing fat. And, they work really, really well. And it's like we have to accept new technology. We have to accept these drugs are here to stay. They're not going anywhere.
And they have a place. I think that's the point. It's like they're actually a great innovation as well, aren't they? I mean, they are. There's some great research has gone into them, but it's the same with any medication. If you just use it, if it's used in the wrong way or isn't used, the full education isn't there for somebody.
And so for me, I find like the GPs are very, very proactive in prescribing, but they don't have time. They can't help them. So when they say to their GP, look, I'm going to see my nutritionist as well, they're really happy. So it also helps solidify that relationship between the modalities. Just like, okay, I'm going to keep prescribing this, but you keep an eye on what they're eating and make sure that they aren't.
Because it's what they're eating that's actually or lack of. Because Emily, could you just define food noise for us? Because I think this is something that's really important for people to know what we're talking about here.
There's a very big spectrum of what people sort of describe when they're talking about food noise. Because I know we all get those clients in that when you look on paper, you go, you're eating amazing. Like it's great. And then we've got the other end where we go, yeah, there's some work to do. And those people know full well that there is work to do. But I think where the food noise also comes in is if your body's out of balance, it often pushes you to a place where you crave foods that possibly aren't working for you. And so it takes both those tools that we've been talking about around changing food, feeding your body the nutrients it needs, as well as using some bits and pieces that block off those pathways for a period to help you reduce those cravings, reduce this sort of getting in your head around food, so you can just concentrate on preparing nutritious meals, eating those meals, and getting to that place where you feel amazing, and then it self-perpetuates. So we get those people that are just like, I'm stuck in the loop. I do one day of my protein, my salads, and then the next day I fall in a heap and the chocolate bar comes out. I need 20 coffees to get me going, and then 3 wines at night to wind me back down. So yeah, it's finding that balance.
Yeah, so the GLP-1 agonists, they can just calm down that intense desire, or the tense noise in the head that says I've got to eat, or I would need to eat, or it just dials that all down, and then allows the better choices to potentially really start to manifest. So Karen, how would you describe that the importance of having the great dietary advice when you've got that dialed down food noise?
Yeah, I think it's relearning habits as well. So we didn't all start off with this food noise, and I'll admit, like, I have this food noise. Like, I will walk through the streets, and if I said that I didn't look at a donut and go, oh my God, that looks incredibly amazing, I would be kidding myself. I do. I look at those foods and go, they're amazing. But I'm lucky enough that I can walk past. But there's people that can't. And what I find is that a lot of the time they're craving a lot of these foods because they haven't nourished themselves in other ways as well. They may have got up and they've skipped the breakfast, they've had the coffee, so therefore they're on the run. And then all of a sudden they're out in the big wide world and there's a bakery in front of them or there's a takeaway store in front of them and they're hungry. And it's really easy at that point to actually go and grab the foods that they think are going to actually nourish them, but in the long term, it's not going to. Whereas with MB, with what we do, if we can set up that foundation of having a really good nutritious breakfast that contains the proteins, the fats, the good carbohydrates, everything we need, it helps to reduce some of that food noise. And then you bring in the medications and you've reduced it even more. So the success to then get from breakfast to lunch to have a nourishing lunch helps. And then you've got the same in the afternoon. And so it's about that. It always comes back to that foundation of good food. But good food with MB, not only do you get the good food, you know what food you need in the quantities you need and where you need it. So it sets that stage to just work perfectly in sync with the medications that we're seeing.
And from my point of view, the reduction in the hunger, the desire to eat is one of the key things that actually does happen with the injectables. It reduces everything down, and I think often people then like the idea that they're not eating. There's actually no appetite anymore. So of course, they start to lose weight and they feel this is good. But actually, this is when we're also losing muscle. So, and we are losing the nutrients on every single day. The baseline essential nutrient levels for just good body function is slowly depleted and is lost. Katie, if I could just bring you in here, would you agree with that and add on to that?
Absolutely. I think, like I always say to people, MB is not about starvation. Like, you're eating 3 good meals a day with protein, with vegetables, with, carbohydrate as well. So this, weight loss should not be about starvation. And absolutely, sometimes when people use medication alone without the education of what to eat and how much to eat, then they lose their appetite, they stop eating, and naturally they're going to lose weight. But that's not healthy, because food is not bad. Food is nutrition and well-being and health and vitality. We need to eat, and we need to have a relationship with food that we realize we don't need to be scared of it. It's just knowing what we need to be fueling ourselves with. And I think, definitely clients who do MB, often what they say is that they just feel a sense of relief, because all of a sudden they are like, I just love knowing what I need to eat, and I love knowing how much I should be eating, and then how my body should feel. Like that's such a relief. And when we marry MB with the injectables, from what I've seen, that noise of, oh, I just need a glass of wine, oh, I just need a few biscuits, or I need to come home and just binge on something because I had a really stressful day, that goes. So I think it's really important to distinguish. In my experience, most people aren't hungry on MB. And if they are really hungry, then that, I feel, is a signal to do something about it and potentially increase their quantities of food. But even though people aren't hungry, that doesn't, as we've already ascertained, doesn't necessarily stop the food noise or the desire to stress or emotionally eat. And but the injectables certainly seem to be successful at that. And then on the other side of that, while we're addressing what they should be eating, and then we've got the injectables in there kind of calming that noise, you would hope that clients, or encourage clients, to do that mental work as well, so that when they come off the medication, they have other coping tactics aside from emotionally eating on sugar or wine and whatnot as well. So it is a full picture.
Heather, I really want to hear your input on this as well.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything Katie said. And I think there's so many new tools and devices that we can use to enhance the MB experience. And what Katie was just saying about in this journey, creating new habits, like continuous glucose monitors, which are available, they are such a great tool to use for 14 days. Obviously, we're talking about people who aren't diabetics. But if you see the data that says if you go for a walk within that hour after dinner, it dramatically reduces your glucose levels. And if you wear one and you eat tea and you see, my glucose has gone to 7.5, and then you go for a walk and then you come back and you see it's gone to 4.6, you really realise, okay, that's a lifestyle habit I want to do, because I've seen that the last 10 days, if I walk after dinner, my glucose comes down. So things like that can show you, okay, I was eating my MB breakfast, lunch and tea, and then I had a treat meal, or then I did sneak in that chocolate bar, and they see those spikes, and they can see the changes that are happening, or they can see the good. They can see how stable their blood sugar is. So there's so much new technology out there. We need to be able to bring it in and embrace it and use it as tools to keep motivating clients. And at the end of the day, everyone's on YouTube. They're all learning about all these new gadgets and devices. And we've got to be up to speed with that and say, yep, okay, well, let's look at your Oura Ring results. And has your sleep improved on MB? Oh, yeah, it has. You're getting your heart rate variability is better and you're getting more REM. Let's look at that to the month before you started MB. So the injectables are just another tool that's out there. And because people can buy it on subscription, sometimes they're really getting it without much supervision at all. And that is our job. Is they were already our client or they're coming in. It's like, don't say, well, I don't have anything to do with that. We've got to say, okay, no worries, I can help you with that. And what my role will be is to make sure you're eating correctly, to help you use the minimal dose required, and to help you wean off at the end, and to wean off with lifestyle habit changes in this period that are going to stick. And then you're going to get the most bang for your buck, because at the end of the day, it all costs money. So if they can see the value in merging an MB program with an injectable, with an Oura Ring, with a glucose monitor, and say, I've learnt so much about myself, then they can go forward and they can start to cut the chain. And, as you know, people don't go away, but I try to get clients out to, let's have a review every 6 months. And that's where we want to be. We don't want people dependent and coming back every month for decade on decade, but we want to empower them, give them the tools, teach them how to use them, and then let them go gently, but they know that we're always there as their backstop when we need them, when they need us.
And I think, like you've just said, Heather, there's so many things that we can bring into a treatment plan, and such a team that you can build around. But I think also part of it is we obviously understand that these issues are complex. It's not just about what someone's eating, but it's good when clients realize that as well, because if a client wants to really change long term, they really need to look at the whole picture. Not just, I'll see a nutritionist and change my diet. That might work for a while, but if it's a whole spectrum of contributing factors, there needs to be that investment financially and from a time perspective and from a energy perspective that, okay, I understand this is a little bit more complex than just doing a 10-week challenge or whatnot, and I'm willing to address it and educate myself and look at it from a multifaceted approach if they want to really resolve it.
Yeah, and I think it's the essential, from my point of view, the essential knowledge that you can't just do the GLP-1 agonists by themselves and expect just completely great outcomes. Because if you're not nourishing your body at the same time, then I'm afraid you're going to get more of the side effects. I mean, we know there are certain side effects coming into play. Emily, talking about the side effects of the injectables when there isn't great nourishment, have you seen that in practice?
Well, I guess the main one everyone knows about is the Ozempic face, and not to single that one out, but what is actually happening there is because people are under eating good food. So it's not about under eating as a macro thing, it's under eating the right nutrients. You do still go into a starvation pattern, and this is where fasting can become negative, right? Where it'll raise cortisol, which as soon as your cortisol is elevated, you will not burn fat. You burn muscle preferentially to turn it into glucose for that energy source. So there's the muscle loss if you undereat with it. There's also there's a myriad, and the more we're using these medications, the more we're understanding how they do affect other people. And so it's really great when we are able to support people alongside any of these medications. And it's not just the weight loss drugs. It's blood pressure medication. It's cholesterol medication. It's antidepressants, right? Like, it's all of these medications that absolutely have a place. But if we can get that dose down to the bare minimum, if not gone, then we're going to have people feeling better, full stop. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people feeling amazing. So it's about reducing that dose down to the bare minimum, rather than what we constantly see with poor people, where doses go up, doses go up, doses go up. And the second we start increasing doses on things like this, the more likely it is to have side effects that are not positive, right? So we want to meet in the middle somewhere, and really support people from all angles to make sure that they're feeling good.
And I think it's also that longevity. We've got to talk about longevity, and longevity really comes from great muscle composition. The body composition that has the good levels of muscle, because that I often refer to muscle as a bit like your superannuation policy. You've got to have a good super to see you nicely into your 90s, and the same way you've got to have good muscle level. Now, the real danger with starvation diets, with diets that aren't having the optimal level of protein and vegetables, nutrients, fiber, all of it coming in every day, you're actually going to be depleting the good stuff. Karen, I know you know quite a lot about muscle and building muscle. So what would you say here about the importance of MB alongside medications again in this context?
Like even going back to what Emily said about that, when you're on these medications, like if we take the nutrition out of it, we just put somebody on these medications, the body's not selective in where it's going to take that weight from, where the reduction we're going to see. So it's not going to go, okay, we've got this amount of body fat, let's use it, let's reduce it. The body is going to go to what it needs to do to actually create energy. The body still needs energy, so it still has to function. And when we've not got the right nutrition in place, the body is going to look for the things that it's easier to use. So the muscle and everything that we see. You need the right nutrition then to be able to actually build muscle. So you see a lot of people going to the gym and they're trying to work on building their muscle up and they're not eating correctly. It's not going to work. You need good proteins in. You then need other nutrients to come in to help get those proteins into the muscles, to allow the muscles to then continue to grow. Once we're sort of working those muscles, you get the energy from within inside the muscles to keep your metabolic rate working correctly. So it's kind of coming into it and going, okay, like I said, we have these tools. We have these tools for people to help them to achieve their goals. But you've got to get that found. It just still comes back to the foundation. Get the right amount of protein in to allow those muscles to either maintain, because some of these people that are using the medications don't want bigger muscles. Some people do. Some people then start losing weight and go, okay, I want to now tone up. Well, to tone up, you need to work your muscles and you've got to then get your right foundation.
You've got to have that great internal muscular structure, not necessarily like, we're not talking.
You've got to have that. It's going to carry you forward.
Yeah, we're not talking about bodybuilding here. We're talking about just structural muscular architecture to hold the body and carry you through life, isn't it?
Yeah, and to walk, to be able to then exercise if you want to be able to sit down and stand up.
Just weight loss in itself actually isn't necessarily healthy. That's the danger I see, is that people often just look at the single number on a scale, on the bathroom scales that just tell them one number, and they feel if it's going down, then that's great. That's great. But it's not necessarily great. It could be the wrong stuff that's actually being lost. Heather, I know that you were sharing before we came started recording today. You had a client with polycystic ovary syndrome who had done really well. Could you just share that story with us? Because I think it's also a really good picture of where the combination comes in.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's not uncommon these are relatively young women in their early 20s, mid 20s, to come in, and they're seriously overweight. Like they're 120, 130 kilos. They often haven't got a cycle happening at all. They've got a lot of facial hair, it's abdominal obesity, and they're absolutely miserable because they they live on nothing. They try all the carb restriction, they try everything, nothing works. And as soon as they take the foot off the pedal for even one day, they seem to gain the weight again. And when they come in and they want to do MB, I've found, and this is multiple women, where we might go really, really well for around that, releasing anywhere between 15 and 30 kilos. And sometimes the cycle's back and, everything's improved, but they're still morbidly overweight. And they start to lose momentum, basically. They've been prepping, they've been doing all the right things, they've done their treat meals and it's working, but it's slow and it's hard. And I find that if the injectables go in then, so they say they came in at 120 and they've got to 90, And the injectables come in then. That can be that bridge to give them the motivation to keep going, because they're really not going to get into a healthy body composition. And, I'm always aiming for the first goal of a BMI under 28 to reduce that cancer risk. And they're not going to get there if they plateau at 90, because it's still not enough to have a healthy cycle, to have good fertility, for all those other PCOS symptoms to go away. So putting the injectables in then, and then keeping that beautiful therapeutic relationship going.
So keeping the food in, keeping all of that great nutrition in.
Yeah, they're fine with it. And sometimes I'm using the herbal GLP-1 agonists at this point. So the amarasate and things like that act as a bit of an appetite suppressant. So it's like recognizing that the hormonally imbalanced people are, I find, the most challenging. And they're the ones that often need extra tools. But if you can find that sweet spot with everyone working collaboratively, you can get there. And the joy and satisfaction that brings to their lives, you can't measure that, because many of these young women have been struggling for already 10 years. Like, this all started at 15, 16. They just started on this trajectory of weight gain as soon as they even looked sideways at a carb. So it's using metabolic balance as a nutritional tool, but using every other tool that we have access to really focus on, what does this person need? This person needs to be at a healthy body weight and with a fully functioning reproductive system. And we're not going to back off until we get there.
Yeah, it's that full toolkit. It's actually the full collaborative approach of personalised medicine at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes they've tried the pharmaceuticals alone, as in, the metformins and things like that, but that, they had side effects and diarrhea, or they have reactions. So it's like, okay, let's start with MB. Let's see how you go. If we need more tools to support you, they're available, and I'll help you, direct you to find them. So, that is what makes this a great program, is that it's a fantastic foundation. And then and for most people, it's the only tool we need. But when the going gets tough, it's also still a great foundation to then go forward with other tools.
And I think that's, again, a great point, that we, all of us here have got, probably between all of us here, we've got, a couple of thousand clients experience under our belt. And we know that the outcomes can be so profound when we use food, when we use personalized nutrition with a metabolic balance plan, because that's all it actually is. But then there are those clients that definitely need that extra support and that extra intervention. But the food has to still be that key cornerstone that just builds the foundation.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a massive pull away from bariatric surgery, because I think, the weight loss industry per se is now getting better tools that are less invasive and less long-term side effects. So the market will still be there, but it's going to look different going forward, because that was sort of like the default. Oh, well, I can't get the weight off, I'll have a gastric sleeve. But there are so many other options now, and it's increasing. Like, they're talking about the third generation of GLP-1 agonists are going to be even better again. So we just got to keep in the space and learn, and use our clients for feedback and assist them, and definitely not be closed-minded into using other tools as well as MB, because, at the end of the day, all we want is that fantastic outcome for that person. And we're just one of the ways that they get there.
And I think that I am truly excited about the potential moving forward, because I have always felt that the gastric surgery, I've always known there's a good place for it, and it can be, an option that really does give people enormous relief and results. But it is actually this lifelong change to their gastric function. You can't come back from it. Once you've got a sleeve, it's irreversible. And if there is problems with it, and then you can't do, and if you have a finite amount of food you can now eat that may not be the full nutritional intake, and so how much, how good it is for everybody has always been a sort of problematic in my mind. So I'm like really excited to see the new options, and I'm excited to see that they are going to be used alongside real great food.
And it's a coming together of the modalities as well. So we're all ending up on the same page where it's like, okay, we've got some pharmaceuticals we might need to use, but we've got, more evidence and really good information about what personalised nutrition can do for people. So you can bring the two together, and then you really do have the best thing to offer someone. So it's not them or us. It's like, how can we get this outcome? What have we got to do?
I think it's really key as well. I think a lot of people won't always, like, I've certainly had a number of people contact me and go, oh, but you don't like these medications. They come in with this assumption that we're going to be judgmental, or it's like, oh my gosh, you've got to stop this. And I love the fact that they should be complementary. It's not our job to say, no, you have to come off these. We just have to work on your diet. It's let's bring it together. Let's work with everything and let's get you the best outcome. And long term, if that means that you can come off these medications, great, because we know there's side effects to them. But if we can get you feeling incredible, working it together, then that's definitely the better outcome. And we've seen it with clients. We've seen that they work well together.
Well, I'm really, I'm so pleased that you're able to join me today and to share these insights, because it is absolutely vital that people do realize that metabolic balance as food is an amazing tool, but it's also something that can be doubly amazing when it's used alongside the advances in the medical world and the pharmaceutical interventions as well. And we can get the even better outcomes from these pharmaceutical interventions when they are used alongside real food. That's probably the key learning I really want to sort of get across. Does anybody here would like to sort of finish on any kind of words of wisdom to wrap it up?
I think definitely all of us sort of say the same thing, that we really wish that people were pushed in the direction of what we do with metabolic balance as a first point of call. We know that doesn't happen that way, but we love working with people to get that foundation right. And it really is, I think we've seen it countless times where MB works by itself. Like it really does. And then everyone's personalized though, so we do need to build on that. But once you've got that clear slate with food, water, and the other things that we help people with from a lifestyle perspective with metabolic balance, because it isn't us just flicking a food plan and going, good luck, see you later. It is that sort of support over time. It really does help people. Like we were saying, it's not just about the weight loss. It's about getting your life back, feeling better, being able to get out of bed in the morning without going, oh, my back, oh, my hips, oh, here we go, another day. It's getting that spark back, which is really lovely to see. I know we all really enjoy it when we see people and we go, oh, you're looking so well. What happened?
And that's what nourishment does. That's actually what nourishment does. You look well because you are nourished really, really well. And sorry, it just reminds me. It's just kind of, I love my analogies. My analogy is always in the plant world, the plant kingdom. We know that plants and trees and shrubs, when they are nourished properly, when they have beautiful water and sunlight and and in the right place in the beautiful soil, you can see that plant flourish. And when that doesn't happen, when all those nutrients are lost, when the soil is poor, that is not a healthy looking plant. And I honestly say that's exactly what happens with the human body. If you see a human body that is truly nourished well, you see that glow coming out from the inside out. And when it's not nourished, then we get the gauntness. Unfortunately, I think that to me is where we get the Ozempic face, for example. It's like there's no nourishment going in, so it just ends up looking gaunt. And that's the tragedy of it, when people don't appreciate what could happen if they just got more advice and got the food that's perfect for them. And thank you so much. I think that's a great place to finish for today. And if there's any comments or questions, do let us know. If there's anything anybody's listening and you would love to hear the expert panel talk about, please do drop us a line at the email address team@metabolic-balance.com.au. And you can also check out more information about Metabolic Balance on the website, and all details are in the show notes as well. So once again, a big thank you to the panel, Heather, Katie, Emily, and Karen. It's been fabulous talking to you today. And I wish you all a wonderful day, and we will catch up again soon. Thanks very much.